Hey there, Synth Drones. Welcome to another edition of Midnight Synth Talk. Hi, I'm Pure Ambient Drone, aka James Drone, and this is my channel where I vlog about synthesizers. So hit that subscribe button and tap that bell before you forget to. JamesDrone.com is the place to be to connect with me. So, Midnight Synth Talk. What am I doing here? I am talking about synthesizers, and I'm uploading these approximately around 10 o'clock p.m. on Central Time. I did say that I was going to do this at midnight, but I thought about it, and I think 10 o'clock is a better time to upload these. And that way, when you get around to listening to it, you can snuggle up in your bed, turn on my channel and listen to some synth talk and maybe doze off and get into a nice dream state about synthesizers as I babble away about them. I thought that would be nice. Night? Yeah, it would be night. It would be night when you did that, wouldn't it? Hopefully. But if you like what I'm doing with this series, feedback in the comments section would be fantastic because it helps me understand what I am doing for you and if it's working or not for you. And that's the important thing, is that you're happy with it. Okay, so let's get into the talk. I am thinking about downsizing some of my synthesizers. I have become very, very keen on getting some analog gear, and VCO synthesizers in the poly nature is really appealing to me right now. It has been for quite a long time. I haven't always acted on it. So I'm going to probably get rid of the Access Virus B. Now remember, when I get rid of a synthesizer, it's not because I necessarily found something wrong with it. It's just because it's no longer fitting my workflow or I have overlap. And I have found that with all the sequential gear that I have in here, I don't really need an Access Virus B. It's nice to have one. They're fantastic synthesizers, but I don't think I need it. The Korg Radius, I don't think I need that either. I have a Roland Phantom that's probably never really on camera on any of my videos. It covers so much digital territory that it's just, to me, it's become almost ridiculous for me to try to go for another digital synth. And some people are wondering, why did I buy the Roland D05? Well, I tell you what, that is a fantastic little synthesizer. And I probably have all of these sounds inside of the Phantom because I think there's 3,000 plus sounds. And you can do a search in the Phantom. But there's just something about the D05 that sounds different to me in its character. So yeah, I could take the Phantom and reproduce those sounds, and there's probably all of them already in there. I just haven't found them all. So I don't really need it, but there is a bit of an immediacy about getting into the D05 and just finding what I want and using something quickly. So it's nice to have it around. Will I keep it? I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of digital synthesizers as much as I used to be. And I know that sounds horribly horrible, but, and there's nothing against digital synthesizers. I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea because I have digital synthesizers. So the Korg Radius, the Access Virus B, those are definitely going to go. The System 1M, I love that thing, but I'm running out of room because I'm adding some other synthesizers. Now, this is interesting because I haven't talked about this before, but so first of all, I do have a Juno 2 keyboard, and then I have the MPG50 controller that goes into it. So where am I going with this? The Juno 2 is a keyboard that will not fit in here, but I love the sound of the Juno 2. I don't think it sounds identical to a 106. There are some character differences in it. So I want that in my studio. So what did I do? I bought the next best thing, which is probably just as good or better. I don't know, but for me, it's better. I bought the MKS50, which is basically a Juno 1/2 in a box. And that controller, the MPG50, will work fine with it. And it's going to fit in the place of where either the Access Virus has been or the System 1M. They're still back there now. I haven't even listed them yet, but I will be listing them here soon enough. And so they will be packed up and ready to go, and I will have studio space for that. So that's some interesting things that I've been doing. Now that is a DCO analog synthesizer, digitally controlled oscillators. And it's not VCO. And I stated earlier that I do like VCO synthesizers. I do. But you can't have too much of one thing. And that's why I like to hybrid up my studio with VCOs, DCOs, and then all digital synthesizers and romplers and virtual analog all add flavor to a track and to your creation when you're making a full album. And I do like to record albums. I have released a few singles in my time, but I like compiling everything onto an album as well. And so when you do that, I think that you give the listener a variety of sounds and textures in your music. And by the way, speaking of music, I get this all the time, but if you haven't checked out jamesdrone.com, I push the website so hard because there are things there that people don't know about, like my music, for instance, and other social media connections. You should try going there sometime if you haven't already been there and check out some of the music that I've released. I'm on iTunes, I'm on Spotify, I'm on Amazon. All the major online stores has my music, and you can check out what I'm doing with these synthesizers to get a better idea of how I'm using them. Because I do more than just demos that you'll find here on my channel. I actually make music tracks, and if you like listening to soft music, I have a lot of that, of course, because Pad is my middle name. But anyway, yeah, I've been really busy here in the studio the last couple of weeks. I've been trying to do some better organization. I hate organizing stuff because that means that it's disorganized. I like having everything in its place, and I have been really tripping myself up because I want to talk about gas here for a moment. This is a great place to go if you want to get gassed up for synthesizers. My channel will gas you up. I know it will because I talk about synthesizers and I get gassed up just listening to myself talk about them, okay? So it's got to be gassing up everyone who's watching my videos. The problem with gas, though, is that we can get dissatisfied, wrongfully so, with the current gear that we already possess, and we can start looking at things to chop away at. So let's say you want to buy something that's bigger and better than anything else in your studio. You start looking around immediately at one or two things that you could sell that will help you afford that synthesizer that you're now gassing for. And I'm not going to lie to you because it is true that I have gassed myself out of synthesizers as well as into wrong synthesizers. And what I did, and I talked about this last night, man, I was foolish. I wanted to go more digital, and I gassed myself out of the sequential synthesizers and into the digital world. And again, nothing wrong with digital synthesizers. As I stated in the video last night, digital synthesizers have their place. I believe too many of them in a track can really cool things off and make things sound kind of cold. And so you do need a balance of some analog in there, some real analog, poly analog. In my case, I prefer VCO, DCOs to warm things up. And that's why I say that when you look around your room and you're gassing yourself up, you got to be careful because you can start getting rid of some really great synthesizers. And that's what I did. I looked at some of my sequential gear and I said, wow, do you know how many awesome digital synthesizers I could buy with the, money that I sell one of these for? The sequential synthesizers, they're high end, and I think they're worth every penny. They sound great. They have a really nice warm texture, and they are so capable of doing so much. And when I got rid of them, I was so depressed after the newness of the digital synthesizers that I bought to replace them with kind of wore off. And then I realized, man, to me, nothing sounds as good as real analog synthesizers. And that's just me, because like I said, I am a analog purist. I'm not going to lie to you. But I don't want to hide that, and I don't want to make it sound like digital has no place, because it obviously does. There's all kinds of cool stuff that you can do with digital, and then romplers and samples. I mean, they all have their place in music. So where do I want to go from here? Believe this or not, because this is probably going to shock people. I want to get to a stopping point where I quit buying synthesizers. Isn't that horrible? Because I find myself looking for synthesizers more than actually using synthesizers. You can actually get into a trap of just buying, buying, selling, selling, trading, trading, back and forth. It's not good. It's not good at all, because what you do is you take the time that you would be using to make music and you're researching synthesizers and you're buying synthesizers. You're taking money and resources out of your pocket that you could be pumping back into your art form. Now, for those who just love synthesizers and they want to try everyone on the planet, that's fine. Keep doing what you're doing if that's what makes you happy. If you're a musician who wants to produce music and that's your first love, like myself, you have to have a stopping point to where you know that what you currently have is working for you. And if you're dissatisfied with something, you should make sure that it's what needs to go. So I did something. I invested in a shelf and it's outside of the studio. And when I think I don't want a synthesizer, I park it on the shelf for however long and I see if I start gassing for it again. And let me explain. I have sold a lot of synthesizers where I thought I was done with them and then I gasped for them again. And I just kind of proved my own point when I was talking about the sequentials. I sold all of them and I missed every single one of them. And I ended up buying all of them back. And I talked about that in last night's edition. So what I do now is I take a synthesizer out of the studio if it's in the way, okay, and I put it on the shelf just to see if I can do without it. And that has helped me a lot in determining whether or not I want the synth back. And how it works for me, and it may work differently for you, is that I'll start thinking about the synthesizer. I'll go back and listen to some of the tracks that I used it on, or maybe a demo that I did with it. And I'll start imagining myself bringing it back into the studio and hooking it up again. And depending how I feel about doing all of that as I'm thinking about it, kind of determines whether or not I really want that synthesizer again. And then if the gas kind of leaves me, I make a decision on whether or not I should sell it or not. And I don't always do it this way because in the past I had suggested to do this and I was practicing this practice. And then I fell away from doing that and I really messed myself up by getting rid of some really good gear. I even sold my Juno, I almost said Jupiter. I've never owned a Jupiter. I almost sold my Juno 106. I even sold it, and I missed that thing so badly. Juno 106 is a wonderful synthesizer. It's sitting right up there, and this one's got the custom blue LEDs installed in it, so it's really beautiful sounding. I love it. Oh man, it's well, the blue LEDs don't make it sound any better. That came out wrong, but it certainly does make it look better while it's sounding off. So maybe that has something to do with it subliminally. I don't know. That's funny when I think about that one. That's funny. The Phantom 2019, people ask me all the time, would you suggest this? If you want a workstation that covers every single bass on the planet, somewhat like a jack of all trades for just about everything you can imagine, this is it. I can't think of another workstation I would ever want to trade this for. I don't think I ever want to sell my Phantom 2019. I had a FA06 for a long time, and it was my workhorse too. It fills in all the blanks. It fills in all the blanks, folks. So you can't do too bad with a FA06. And I say that now because it was the only choice. I thought it was the best workstation at the time. The Phantom outdoes it. There are some things I wish that they would change about the Phantom, but I'm not going to get into them here, only because at the top of my head, I really couldn't name them off. And this isn't something, a Phantom, that I would tell people to just buy unless you wanted the digital character in your arsenal. Now, with that being said, the Zen Core, I believe they refer to it as Zen Core when it's hardware, in Zenology when they're talking about their cloud. But we're going to talk about Zen Core. So this has a analog filter in it, the Phantom that I have. It's a 76 key. And it's really nice to fill in a lot of the blanks. So whenever I need something quick and fast and I just don't want to mess around with it, this thing has it. I wouldn't call it something that is so pristine and so analog sounding that this would be my only synthesizer or suggest it to be. But that's only for electronica music, okay, or electronic music. If you're in a pop band or any other kind of mainstream type music band, the Phantom is going to cover all of your bases. And so if you're into that kind of genre, then this is what you need. But if you're into deep electronic music, this is not something that I would suggest you would get into. It can do a lot of stuff, and it can do a lot of stuff really good. And you probably could listen to some really nicely produced tracks, and it will do a wonderful job. It really will. And there's nothing that I can say bad about it, because in the right hands, it will do a fantastic job and it will produce some great music. To me, I just don't think it has the analog warmth and the character, especially in the low ends, where you really want to do some low sweeps and some real thick sounding pads. I don't think it exists in the Phantom. But that doesn't mean you can't produce stuff that sounds great. Just to clarify, I love all synthesizers, and I believe that in the right hands, any synthesizer can be great. It just depends on how a person interacts and uses it and what they do with the music once it's laid down in the DAW. Because there's all kinds of post-processing that you can do. There's all kinds of things in the Phantom that you can do. And I actually started out with an FA06 as one of my main synthesizers, okay? And it covered a lot of my ground that I needed covered in the beginning. And I have to tell you that if you need a workstation, the Phantom is probably the best bet out there. And I've tried the Korg Kronos, which sounds really good. The Korg Kronos is a beautiful sounding synthesizer. I wasn't impressed with the Yamaha Montage. I thought I was, but I really am not. I didn't like the interface. I didn't like the layout. I didn't like the interaction. I didn't like the sound. To me, the Yamaha Montage, I hate to say this, but it sounds almost plasticky. And that isn't always a bad thing if that's the sound you're looking for, but it does have, to my ears, the only way I can describe it is a plasticky sound. So I didn't like that workstation. They did some cool stuff with the sequencer. I think it was 2.0 that they started allowing you to do multi-track sequencing or something. I installed that, but I never could get into the synthesizer, so out it went. I owned two of those, but not at the same time, of course. I don't think I've ever owned two of the same kind of synthesizers, the exact same synthesizer at the same time. But that might change because I'm working on a project. And right now I'm keeping it secret. Keep it safe. Keep it secret. If you guys know what that is, the Lord of the Rings reference there. So anyways, I think that's about it for Midnight Synth Talk for tonight, and I appreciate all of you listening and watching. You need to let me know in the comments below if you like this or not, and subscribe to this channel if you want more. And let me know what you think. I need some good feedback. I might continue doing this for about a week or so. I haven't made up my mind yet, depending on the reception I get from it. But yeah, I'm enjoying doing this, and I hope you guys are enjoying watching and listening. Until next time, I am James Drone, aka Pure Ambient Drone. Keep calm and synth on.